Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Faz.
And I'm Rich.
Check mic, check mic, check. Wait, you're a musician. Check mic, check the word musician again.
Yep, what are we doing?
I'm making sure the microphone's working.
Yep.
Because we contractually owe our own podcast. I mean, we owe it to ourselves and also to our podcast a Wipeout episode,
right?
Basically,
yep.
Because episode 6, on which we reviewed Wipeout Pure and Wipeout 2048, not 2049. I was to get that 48. Yeah. I hope I got that right because I've got it written down for these notes for this podcast, where we reviewed those for the PSP and PS Vita. A really good episode that you can't fucking hear.
Brilliant.
So you kind of can, but you've got to be super committed to want to listen to that episode. And whenever anyone goes, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to your podcast, I'm like, oh great, don't listen to...
Start about 10 episodes in.
Don't listen to any of the first episodes. You won't get what's going on either, but then that also continues for the next 120. So, so we are going to be doing a definitive edition, almost in more than one ways, podcast today on a couple of races. So we've not done any racing games since #DriveJanuary.
Really?
Yeah.
Good grief.
Well, I kind of feel like that was probably going to be the case anyway, because we did so many all at once in a glut.
Yeah,
but
true.
I was starting to miss them. I needed the speed. I had
to put the pedal to the metal. Did you?
Yeah, I had the need for the speed.
Oh dear.
So yeah, and that was when I was thinking, yeah, it'd be great if we kind of go back, because it linked a little bit, sort of like very vicariously, to an episode 21 where I reviewed Outrun, and at the end of episode 20, we also give Outrun 9 out of 10. About our 9 out of 10 game of the year of 2023. I remember saying at the time that it was living and breathing in my brain like the beetle in The Mummy, kind of crawls inside there and won't leave you alone. Outrun's a bit like that for me. Huh. And I remember saying at the end of that episode, we had a very brief discussion, about what our favourite arcade races were. And we kind of plumbed for sort of 3 at the time. I mean, God, we were so young back then.
Yeah.
And we sort of went for a bit, because what we'd done so far, what we'd reviewed some Ridge Racer, we'd reviewed some Wipeout and some Outrun. Mm-hmm. I think I picked Outrun as my favourite style of arcade racing game. You picked Ridge Racer, and Wipeout not got left out in the cold necessarily, but considering we both gave Wipeout Pure and 2048 9s out of 10, you can see what kind of category of games that is in. We're talking about here, the lofty heights, if you will. So all that said, I thought it'd be really good to go back and talk about the definitive editions, or what some people might perceive as definitive editions, of both Wipeout and Outrun. Ridge Racer, we'll come back to at some point.
Yep.
So the 2 games that I would say are the definitive editions of those 2 franchises are Outrun 2006, Coast to Coast. And if I'm wrong, you can say no. And Wipeout Omega Collection. That's what we're reviewing today. That was a really, really long way of saying all that, but that's where my brain's been. So.
I enjoyed that.
So, we've kind of done that thing where we both are gonna do a bit of a joint thing, so it's not a game each or anything. We've both played both these games to a certain extent, and then should we try and do the stupid thing where we both said the score we're going to give at the end and see if it's the same?
Yeah, and then we can bicker about which one goes on the spreadsheet.
Exactly, that's fine. Right, cool. We can put them both on there, but
I guess too complicated when we do the order.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I remember Lion King with 3 scores for that.
Yeah,
so
it's a nightmare.
Sunset wagged a tail for that shit. Right?
Damn cat.
God, if you're not listening to the podcast for a while, you're like, what's a sunset? Why were they wagging their tail? So, should we start off with the earlier of these 2 games, right, and also the earlier of both franchises in a way. So, should we start off with Outrun?
Yep. Notes. Yep.
Cool. Do you want to do a bit of an intro, sort of backgroundy kind of thing, or do you want to do that? We've not really thought about this, have we?
I haven't researched anything, so I ain't got anything to tell you.
Okay, I'll do.
I just played the thing.
I guessed as much. Actually, that probably works out well, really. I do the research, you do the good gamey talky thingy. That usually works out pretty well. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. So I played the PSP version, and you've played the PlayStation 2 version.
I have.
Funnily enough, both from 2006. So the reason I did a bit of research around this is because I've always wondered this before I actually got around to playing this game. And it's notable that I always read, whenever I read Retro Gamer, that the editor-in-chief, is it Darren? And his favourite game is always stated Outrun 2 Coast to Coast. Because 2006, sorry, Coast to Coast. See? And I'm always like, well, what's all the difference between all the different types of Outrun when you get to Outrun 2? So to try and... this is because I was struggling with this, to alleviate anybody else that was struggling with this. So Outrun 2 was released in 2003 on the arcade. It was then updated, the same game, Outrun 2, and released on home console Xbox in collaboration with Sumo Digital at the time. So it was Sega and Sumo Digital. Then a year later, Outrun 2 SP was released with an update of 15 new tracks and a couple of new cars. And then a year later, Coast to Coast was released, which basically, and that was just solely developed by Sumo Digital, and that was for the PSP, PS2, and the Xbox. And basically, that was split into 2 different parts. Each version on each different console has a little bit of a different variation, but I'm not sure what that is, and we might pick that up as we speak. I think that's probably just catering for the PSP and how much you can fit on a UMD, maybe.
Maybe. There was, like, when I was trawling through the menus, there was like a car. One of the cars in the PS2 version you could only buy on the PSP version and then transfer over or something like that.
Yeah, it was a transfer thing, wasn't it? So, so the split of what the game is when you get to the Coast to Coast version, then you've got Outrun 2 SP in one kind of, I guess, half of the game, where you've got 30 tracks to play on with 10 cars, and then you've got the Coast to Coast part of the game, which is kind of the newish, well, at the time, new career mode that's got another 15 additional cars. And like you say, some of them are only available either through connection of PS2/PSP. It's a very strange dynamic, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
To think about that. I always forget that PS2s and PSPs would connect in some way. But yeah, and that's kind of it, really, in terms of the background of it. There is a limited selection that I noticed, certainly when I first went to the game, that of cars and tracks and challenges available at the start. Is that the same on the PS2, and you unlock it through progression?
I think it is, but I'd be lying if I said I missed them or anything like that, weirdly. I'm struggling to think of anything that was, like, obviously massively locked. I guess it kind of depends how you count. On the PS2 version, there were a lot of, like, what I would have said were, like, missions to do and stuff like that. And as I sit here right now, I for the life of me can't remember if they were on, like, one for a specific track, or if you would repeat the track with different missions and stuff like that.
Do you want me to carry on with the setup and then talk about the gamey stuff? So
sure, I'm starting to think the PSP version might be quite different. That's the only reason I'm like stammering my way through this.
Well, let's sort of see then. So I kind of picked up there was like 7 different modes. Like, I've got all these written down because I was like, again, I'm still in that sort of mindset of, God, there's a lot of Outrun in Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. This definitive edition has so many different ways to play Outrun, and I think that almost it sits separate from the experience of how you feel playing Outrun and what you actually do, and how much setup there is in terms of how many different menus there are to go into. And I almost feel like that kind of dragged me down a little bit. That I was like, what am I doing again? What am I doing? The almost the story mode of this part of Outrun 2 SP or whatever and stuff. And it was like, it felt like there was an Outrun mode that is in, and then there was also these other modes here that I kind of was like, right, I want to crack into all these modes to see what they're all like. And hence I made a list because I was like, right, I need to compartmentalize all this stuff because it was just so much.
Got you.
So the original Outrun,
right,
which, you know, you'll cover in terms of what that is and how it works and stuff and what you felt about it. Then there's also a heart attack mode. So basically that's like your passenger gives you requests whilst you're outrunning, which I love the phrase outrunning. Like, I love the idea. I only just learned to, like, literally today that outrun is a culture / style of music separate to the world of Outrun.
Huh.
So if you Google Outrun, then obviously all the gaming stuff comes up, but also there is a subculture of Outrun, which is all to do with 80s synthesizers and things like that.
Oh, that explains the wrestlers.
Oh, really?
No, the Outrunners.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I don't know why I was like, really, I could just guess what the next sentence was going to be. And you get, on the heart attack mode, you get a grade every stage and also for every single request given to you as well by a passenger. Does that sound familiar?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, good. There's a time attack mode, so you race a ghost time. There's a test your drift mode on the PSP. So you have 1 versus 1 with points being earned at different points of the track. When you're outrunning, that it'll say, right, you've got to drift here, and you get points for how well you drift versus somebody else. And then the person with the most points at the end wins. Again, is that you're nodding?
Yeah, it's sounding familiar. A lot of all of this stuff was in the Outrun mode as well, right?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. The last couple then, so slipstreaming. So you get behind vehicles to get points. I remember that. I remember that from my replayed it a month ago. Elimination races, don't be last at the checkpoint, which, you know, the amount of people that are cracking on about Mario Kart World being like revolutionary with the checkpoint races and stuff like that at the moment, like, fucking hell, it's right. You know, I mean, checkpoint races have been around for ages and they're so good, like, you know, and of course they're great in Mario Kart, like, you know, and then keep your partner, which is always like an interesting one where it's like a one-on-one race against somebody else, whereas if you come last, you somehow magically lose your partner in the car. Like your erstwhile your friend who's like been there forever, outrunning with you for so long, but as soon as someone else turns up and beats you in a fucking race, they're straight out your car. Unbelievable. Like, you know, one Ferrari to the next. So yeah, that's my setup, if you will, of all the different types of modes that I think are somewhere in this game.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm looking to you to distill that into the core Outrun feel and what are the what.
Just going to play Magical Sound Shower and leave it at that. Okay, right.
What makes this a definitive version of Outrun? If it is, and yeah, and how do you play Outrun? If you've never played it before.
So traditionally, you would start your. We'll call it an outrun. You will start your outrun. And you can choose to go left or right, and then eventually the path will branch, and you know, depending which way you go, the tracks will be easier or harder, and you reach your goal. Right? That is traditional arcade mode Outrun. So Outrun 2, obviously riffing on that, with additions like your drifting and your slipstream, which is really solid additions. If I remember rightly, as you're going through the kind of standard arcade mode, you might occasionally get little objectives as well, which would be things like your kind of heart attack mode and all that, where it's like suddenly just saying, hit the ghosts, or whatever. You're like, what? Yeah. But it just kind of adds to the fun. And then in the career mode, we'll call it, it kind of compartmentalizes some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you're more likely to have, rather than the full run of however many checkpoints you have to go through to reach a goal, it'll be subdivided, so you have to go through, I don't know, a couple and come first, second, or third, or beat a rival, or do an objective of some kind, or you know, test your drifting.
Yeah.
Compared to somebody else, things like that. So it'll be a lot more divided up, kind of bite-sized chunks, which, from what you're saying about the PSP version, definitely sounds like that was possibly where they got that idea, because these are your bite-sized. Yeah. Like, I'm on a bus. I would like this bus to be going faster and possibly drifting. Therefore, I will play Outrun. Yeah. So that is broadly how it works. The PS2 version, and I'm assuming PSP is similar, as you're going through that career mode specifically, you can accrue points to then spend on cars, additional music or tracks and things like that, which seem to mainly be reversed versions of standard tracks, I think. Yeah, that was very rather than like new stuff. So even just going in kind of vanilla and not really spending your points didn't really feel like you were missing much.
Outrun Miles, are they?
The
same thing. Yeah.
So yeah, like there's a lot of variety to it, which as a racing game where you are going forward a lot of the time and occasionally sideways, is no bad thing, I think. Certainly the PS2 version looks great, handles really, really well. Like I said, I think the slipstreams and drifting and things like that are really, really solid additions. I think they were great to add to that formula. And then you put in those classic, like, noughties, Sega big polygons, and the whole thing just looks great and moves really nicely.
Yeah, the one thing I would say about it operating on a PSP, like, a lot of the scenery really drops in and comes at you. Like, it's in, especially when you're going around, like, the corners where your stage is ending and you go to the next stage, and it's, I guess, almost like a different environment. Like, some of the mountains just come at you, like, oh no.
Yeah, there was one point on the PS2 where you could see it, but it kind of almost like folds up from the bottom, like it's a pop-up book, almost.
This is definitely pop-in. And I don't think it's meant to be, but it doesn't. The only time it really chugs is some of the when you're overtaking, like, is in other cars, you can see the chug. But apart from that, again, it looks brilliant for a PSP game, and again, a 2006 PSP game that is a PS2/Xbox game. You know what I mean? Like, is in that it's a very, very good port. Like, they're very minor gripes, I think, with the PSP versus the PS2 for me. But
yeah, I think, like, there were a couple of bits where it kind of juddered a little bit on mine. That said, mine did repeatedly have disc read issues, which wasn't helping. But it was the kind of thing where it would affect it when it was loading, but once it was in the game, it would generally be fine, and wouldn't really pop up with any errors or anything like that. But even still, you did kind of get the impression that performance wasn't necessarily great. I do wonder if it would have been better on the Xbox. Yeah. And all that. I
can't help but feel that as well. Like, I feel like the way that they took it from the arcade and were like, Outrun at 2SP, for example, like, we're going to go solely to the Xbox because we know what it can do. Yeah,
I do wonder. But even still, like, on the PS2, it definitely hangs together nicely, and I had good fun with it. I think the only kind of, like, big criticisms, really, well, maybe three. Like, I do wonder, like, longevity-wise, like, how much, like, if you're not on board with the kind of core gameplay, how much, like, play and replay you're going to get out of it. And I only really say that because on the PSP, I fully appreciate the kind of niche that it could sit in. On the PS2, you had, like, Gran Turismos and all that that it's up against. Yeah. So I think that it makes it a slightly different proposition.
The day and age where it's living in.
Yeah, I could see how it might not necessarily feel like quite the same, like it would have the same value, I guess. But then after that, like, the only other bits that I was really thinking was the kind of stuff that almost more like I would want from a sequel or something like that. Like, it would be great to choose my gobby co-driver. Yeah. Like, instead of, like, what was it, Flagman?
Flagman,
who you have to impress. Like, he probably deserves a lovely little run out.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I
he's breaking my balls, like, in the tutorial part of it, just sort of like, be better. It's like, fuck off, Flagman.
He's probably annoyed he doesn't get a ride in a Ferrari.
It's like a Hideo Kojima name, like, it's in, for like, one of his characters.
And I think the other thing that occurred to me, and this might be wide of the mark, but I was really, really struggling to kind of tell much of a difference between any of the cars. As I was using them. And, like, I fully appreciate.
I like the black one.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because they're all licensed Ferraris, so they're all going to be good because they kind of have to be. But it was like, well, even still, the stats look like they're all kind of. It's sort of that era where, like, game review scores had to be like 75 and above, otherwise, publishers
Ferrari are coming after you.
So, like, all of the stat bars are like 75 or up. Yeah. But even still, I couldn't really tell much of a difference between them. And what didn't help was the fact that because once again I started playing it and I didn't read the manual first, like an idiot. I never learn. But I was struggling with the drifting and getting it to drift. Yeah. And it was just sticking to the track. Okay. Which was fine until I had to drift for one of the missions.
The drift challenge.
And I was like, well, how am I so bad at this? And it turns out that, yes, it was completely me and just putting the buttons in wrong.
Flagman didn't help you out.
But even switching to another car that I thought would drift better, I was like, well, I can't tell that it's doing anything different. And even when I did learn to drift properly, I still couldn't tell if it was doing anything different. So yeah, I think those are the only quote unquote issues I've got with it, really. So yeah, like
I mean, when you touched on that and said, you know, there might be sort of longevity and stuff, that was my kind of thing with it. It was almost, it sounds a bit stupid, but I mean, going back to my original Outrun review and how much I just loved how much that broke my balls. Like, as in, you know, like, as in, I spent a significant amount of time just trying to finish the A section of the track, to kind of get through those 5 different parts of that. And only after 5-6 hours with the game did I finally become confident to be able to just do 5 of the different types of levels. Like, is out I guess it must be 25 the way the column works. And yeah, in this one, immediately I finished, annoyingly, but I finished 10 meters from the end, the very first outrun that I did. That is on that easy track, and I was like, God, that's way easier than it should have been.
Am I better at this than I thought I was?
Yeah, and I was a bit like, I don't know, like, as in, and just a lot of it just boils down to just be good at Outrun, regardless of all these different things that have been put into it. You know, that is in the challenges of, for example, one of the challenges is to drive between cars, and then there's lines you have to cut and slice in half whilst you're drifting around a corner. But you would, if you're very good at Outrun or you've practiced Outrun, you would be holding that line anyway. It was almost like they were just kind of, the challenges weren't necessarily that challenging, I don't think, or made you do something different from what you'd normally be doing and holding the line anyway. It was almost like, I'm not saying it's glib, but it's a bit of a glib distraction to sort of say, here's something else going on in the world, but actually you're just still doing your Outrun.
Yeah. I think, did you have the one where you have to bat the cars out the way?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that was weirdly one of the trickier ones, because the cars would constantly, that you were aiming for, were taking you off that racing line, right? That you're kind of naturally going for.
Okay, fair enough, yeah.
But even still, like, I wouldn't necessarily have said that was much of a challenge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm inclined to agree that it just feels like there's maybe not like a sort of lowering a skill ceiling to make it more accessible or anything like that. I don't think that'd be far too, like, putting it far too dramatically. But like, there just seems to be something about it where it was a lot more welcoming and happy for me to just sort of wade in. And and that was good. That was fine. That was fun. But like, are you going to be spending days and hours with it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
And that's why I was like, so it sounds like okay, so far, and I'm not trying to speak for you here, but it sounds like we've been quite critical of it. I think that mechanically, in terms of how you drift, and once you learn, and what it feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like, the idea of driving through these beautiful sunlit vistas in your Ferrari, and if that's what you enjoy doing, that is and that's how you enjoy your driving games, driving at speed, drifting around these wide corners and things, that's brilliant in this game. And you can see how that would be the definitive type of outrunning in terms of how it feels and stuff. It definitely is easier on the eye and easier to swallow than, say, the original Outrun on whatever you would have played it on. But at the same time, like you say, how much you want to do that, how many Outrun miles you want to earn by doing that over and over and over, even if there is slight sort of deviations on that, is kind of who you are, I think, probably. Or...
Yeah, and I think for me, the reason I kind of mentioned Gran Turismo early on as the kind of direct comparison on PS2 is that I couldn't help but think, because I had a very similar situation when I first waded in, of getting very, very close to the end, if not finishing it, straight off the bat, which is unheard of for me.
I'm a champion!
Yeah, like that. I'm not used to it without Outrun. And thinking like, okay, cool, like, where do we go from here? And then realising that the cars weren't that radically different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, you don't feel like you need to earn the next car and stuff.
I didn't get the impression they were going to be radically quicker
Yeah.
or anything like that. And like the challenge would come from from having to react to stuff faster.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel like I was getting that. Whereas Gran Turismo, you have that very obvious sense of progression where you start in a terrible
Fuck off,
car.
Skoda!
Yeah. And then you do progress. So you're like, oh, the game is quite fast, isn't it? And
noise you mean that? Is that you on the bus when the bus is going more than 35?
Yeah, well, I played a not insignificant chunk of this Outrun on an exercise bike while I was on it. And
look how fast I'm going!
Yeah, it's great. Like
downhill,
definitely pedaling a bit quicker and stuff like that. In hard
I'm very impressed by you right now. That's cool.
I didn't play it nearly as much as I should have, but it was a handy way of getting a few hours in with it at one point. But yeah, it was that kind of thing where I'm just like, okay, I wonder if I've peaked too soon with this game, right? And like, I could see how, I don't know, say if you're in an arcade and you're playing multiplayer or what have you, I can see how all of those things would also help. I'm pretty sure the PS2 version has online or had online play.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So like, as a something that would have been unusual, a bit of a novelty at the time, yeah, I see how all of those things would have helped help you play it longer. But in 2025, I think that's a trickier argument to make unless you are deeply in love with the game. And I can, for the record, absolutely see why somebody would be in love with the game.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Speaking of which, so one of our good friends on Instagram, so at Retro Game Den, sorry, stumbled over my name there. So when we did the initial Outrun playing of my first game when I was playing Outrun, I was doing challenges against people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I was really enjoying that. And Retro Game Den was one of those people. I did a Lumines sort of tournament with him as well. I got a little bit of feedback from him because I said that Outrun was coming up and he says, "Oh, brilliant." And this is kind of like, so it's not an exact quote because he gave me quite a significant chunk of information about it, but he sort of said, so it's a driving game distilled down to its purest form, just you, a fast car and the open road. Not just about racing, but the simple joy of a road trip through beautiful vistas. Arcade driving perfection. Now, he said it was a 10 out of 10 for him. And you was just saying there, you could see how somebody could feel that. But it sounds like we're probably a little bit lesser than that in terms of or what we think of it and how we consider it. I can totally see, and I agree with you, how this is just the perfect go for a drive game, like almost if that's what you want, and it's a bit relaxing, even with the checkpoints and stuff. Like, as in, whereas what I really loved about Outrun originally was the tense. I've got a fucking millisecond to get this next checkpoint, and I know fine well I'm going to get from checkpoint 3 to 4 on a millisecond, and there's no way in hell I'll make to the next checkpoint because of that fact. But I've just got to this one.
Yeah, for that one moment where you do squeak through. Yeah. I'm inclined to agree with you, and I do see where they're coming from, because like you can almost get into a kind of flow state with it, and it does achieve this almost like Zen level of, just being able to read the road and react, and that's it. That is all you are doing, and yes, that is cool. I think for me, like being able to sink your teeth into it is one thing. Ultimately, though, if I was going to have a me and the open road kind of a game, I have always preferred your kind of big American muscle cars and stuff like that, rather than your Ferraris and stuff like that. So for me, if it's just going to be me, a vehicle, and an open road, I want to be able to hear an engine that would rattle your teeth and stuff like that. Like there was, and I think this is where I was coming down with my point earlier on about the car selection and being able to feel a difference between them. Having the Ferraris in there is one thing, but if you just snuck in, a big American V8, didn't even have to be branded, just for a bit of variety, or I don't know, 4x4 or what have you, a couple of other things just to mix it up a little bit, we'd be talking about a different score, right? Yeah. And just being able to hear like a different engine note almost. Yeah. That was all it needed. In fact, I probably would have been able to slap an extra point on the score, I'm thinking, just by turning it on mute and, getting something off YouTube and just playing the sound from that.
Someone sits outside revving their engine for you. How much are you paying for this?
But it's that kind of thing, though, where it's just, I just feel like for me, it just needed a teeny tiny bit more variety in a different place. That's the thing. Like in terms of the the modes you've got, the ways you can play it, there's variety there.
Yeah.
It's just that I would have loved for there to have been a little extra something in tucked away in one of those menus.
I feel like I'd rather go back and play it in the arcade, sat in the cab, the back
with the focused, pure experience, rather than the console version.
And that's why I was really interested to sort of see how highly a lot of people rate this and say it's one of their favourite games, if not definitely their favourite racing game or driving game, and almost like trying to understand that psyche as well, like not to think that that's wrong, just kind of think, well, actually that's a little bit different from what I feel about it in general. And it's interesting that's a home console version. People are sort of saying, oh, I really, really love that game. And actually, whenever I see that in Arcade Club, for example, and stuff, I'm like, fuck, that looks cool. And you sit in it and you go, fuck, this feels cool. Like, it's in, and you just get that extra kick, that extra bump, that extra arcade excitement that I don't necessarily feel when you're playing it on the home consoles. And even PSP, it does a really good, like, it's a good port. It is a really good port. Like, as in, I felt more about this than I did, say, when we were talking about Crazy Taxi, when I was like, this is an exact port of Crazy Taxi, and that kind of brought me disappointment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas this sounds like it's a pretty good port of the PS2 or Xbox versions, and actually, it has a sense of excitement, but for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I appreciate we're fiddling in the margins now, but like it as a, you take it a step further and say with the PS2 version, as a port of the arcade game, I think it perfectly understood the assignment. And, you've got the arcade game in there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Plus some extra stuff and plus the new bits and all that kind of stuff, which I think is a great way of bringing that home.
Yeah.
So, like, in terms of all of those bits and bobs, totally appreciate why somebody would love it. And I totally appreciate why somebody who gels with the gameplay could live in this game.
Yeah.
But there is just something about it, and it's picky, minor stuff, but it was just enough for me to go like, cool, I'm good. Like I've had however many hours on it. Sweet.
Okay, that's interesting. That sentence has just changed what I thought about what you were going to say about it score-wise. I was about to say,
that's interesting.
Just because you're like, it's just picky minor stuff, and I'm like, okay, right, fine. Oh god, that's tense now. Let's try and unaga this shit, because I feel like we're in a really good place. That in terms, I'm really surprised at how well we've come together on this and gone, we kind of feel the same sort of thing. So let's try and do this score situation. Okay. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, and then we'll say the score.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 7.
8.
Fuck! I had 8 written down and I dropped. I told you the minor picky thing. I should have just gone to. I'm happy. Look, I'm happy. I was like 7.8, kind of like 80, and then I scribbled it out.
I think ultimately the whole thing hangs together too well for it to quote unquote just be a 7, which obviously 7 is still a great score, obviously. But it is really good. It is a really, really good game. Yeah. But I couldn't bring myself to love it.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I kind of, when I thought about that score, and I was like, and we are going to give it an 8, because I'm comfortable with that completely, and that was where, I kind of knocked a bit more, I always do this, knocked a bit more off, because we were just talking a little bit more about some critical stuff. Like, when I think that we gave Dirt Rally 2 an 8, and how much that game does for me, compared to this game necessarily. I was like, this is almost like that lower end of an 8, whereas that was like a high end of an 8. And then I think about Outrun, and then giving that a 9 out of 10. I was like, and that was seminal-ish for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, I really had a real arcade awakening with that, and how you play those types of driving arcade games.
Yeah, and I think for me that was probably how I ended up settling on an 8, was because like for me, Outrun is still very much a 9 out of 10 game. I still prefer OG Outrun to this one. At the end of the day, for all the bells and whistles and the extra bits they put in it, I still prefer the original.
Yeah, I mean, this game is just really good for just being. Imagine being in a Ferrari in the sunshine on the California coast.
Absolutely. Like
there's no better experience for it.
As a getaway. Great. Yeah, great stuff.
Cool. Okay, right, perfect. Outrun done. Wipeout. Don't give up on us now, microphone, motherfucker. Cutscenes. So, Wipeout Omega Collection. Should we try and do the setup? Should I do the setup again?
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. I'll do the Autobot bit and you do the emotion. That's great. So this is a 2017 collection on the PlayStation 4.
2017?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's starting to get up in age itself. You can get it on PS Plus, and it's actually... weirdly, it's under the Classics collection on PS Plus. It's not under like the game catalog.
That's interesting.
Which is funny because it's like it's not any older than the Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, so. But by 2017, then, so Studio Liverpool, who were Psygnosis, had been closed for about 5 years, which is really sad, obviously. But a part of them had fragmented into this ex-dev team, which basically was an external development team for Sony. Bit weird, and they brought this back together basically. So it's been ripped from the belly of Studio Liverpool, but it is still their baby, and the people who worked on it previously have worked on this and brought it back together, which is great. The contents then, so again, sticking with me here, and this is why it's probably good to call this a definitive version of the podcast that we did in number 6. So it is made up of Wipeout HD, which came out in 2008 on the PlayStation 3. That is in turn pretty much made up of Wipeout Pure and Wipeout Pulse from the PSP and ported into the PS3 in HD, and Wipeout Fury, which is an expansion pack on Wipeout HD from 2009, the PS3, and Wipeout 2048 from the PS Vita. So all those, I guess, coagulate into this blob that is the Amiga collection. A really great way to bring tracks that people, unless if you've missed out on, say, the PlayStation 3 or PSP, PS Vita and stuff like that, and for whatever reason you never picked this up in the PS3 era and then you end up on PlayStation 4, to bring all that content together. And when I say that sentence, all of that content together, because there is a substantial amount, a lot like Outrun, to do that and mine that amazing sort of like golden mine of those games that we gave 9s out of 10s to, as we remember. This feels like it's probably right in our wheelhouse if the craft ships had wheels, but they don't. So whatever they have, the hovery bit house. So, and then again, just keep some stale bits stale. So a lot of it is made up of, basically the tournaments, so like the campaign bits, the different types of events that you have in here. So there's races, which we'll get into, obviously. I know you'll go into a bit more detail. Speed laps, time trials, zones, which are kind of like I don't know how to describe them really, sort of speeding up round a lap and getting quicker and quicker and not dying.
Weirdly, I started to see them almost like the Wipeout answer to Outrun. Which kind of doesn't make any sense.
It's a great way of putting it.
You're not picking a route, but it is that progression where you just get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker.
You're trying to pick a wall.
I really enjoy Zone.
You're trying to pick a wall not to crash into, basically. Eliminators, as we talked about, again, like I say, Mario Kart, and we'll come back onto Mario Kart, actually, we're going to make a point later. There's a total of 26 tracks in this, and a total of 46 different ship models. So there's lots. I mean, there are different ways that you go about your campaign, but it's mostly kind of like a thrown together random events that you have to make your way through. So take it away from there, and then I'll chip in again. Concepts.
Cool. So I kind of have two miscellaneous notes at the top that I need to kind of get out of the gate here as well, because correct me if I'm wrong, he says, I don't know why I'm looking at the side of the box, like that's going to help me. This also has a PSVR mode, does it not?
I will go and pick up the box from
if you can
interactively.
Because I'm...
it doesn't seem... Oh, you got a shiny one.
I've got a shiny one.
That is... Oh, my God. Wow. I've not seen that before.
Have you not?
No. I didn't realise it was like holographic,
So I think they put in a PSVR mode, which I'm reasonably sure would kill you.
Yeah, they do, don't they? But this does not advertise. So was that retrospective?
Yeah, they added it on later, I believe. Yeah. I think. Internet, please feel free to correct me.
Why did not just read the back of the box? Race 26 tracks, 46 ships, to 9 modes.
I also didn't check whether or not the PSVR mode actually exists. I had 3 issues with this.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because obviously looks great, sounds great, moves great, plays like Wipeout, looks like Wipeout, sounds like Wipeout, does a lot of Wipeout things. However, there are three things that I want to highlight here. I think for me, a fundamental issue that I had, fundamental issue number one, I think I prefer F-Zero X and GX and all that.
Okay.
I think playing this through has made me realise that I am not a fan of having weapons in this game.
Oh.
And I'm not a fan of weapons in my anti-gravity racing things. I just want to go fucking fast. And I think that means that I fall firmly in the F-Zero camp. And also, I know how well respected the Wipeout soundtracks are, but all I am sitting here with playing in my head on a loop are Mute City and Big Blue from F-Zero.
I don't think this is the first game that you said that about. I feel like you said that.
Are you okay? There. It is just there. It's probably some kind of awful psychological condition. So yeah, like I think that is a caveat that I'm not going to be able to avoid with this one,
like Animal Crossing,
because it was an epiphany I had during one of the combat heavy races where it was really winding me up. I'm like, but I don't need this.
Right, okay.
And I think this is why I like the zone mode, because there is no weapons, there are no enemies, it's just you and going fast, kind of like Outrun 2.
The weapons is physics.
Yeah, and so I think that's, for me, is the kind of the through thread for this, where, you know, somebody might say that Outrun 2, 2006, all that is you, open road, and just driving. I get that. But I do wonder if my sweet spot is as long as no one can shoot at me. Like, that's great. The other kind of fundamental snag that I ran into with this was because you've effectively got 3 campaign modes, season modes, whatever you want to call them, you kind of have to play them in parallel, I found.
Okay.
Because otherwise you would be progressing in one, getting faster and faster and tougher, and then you feel like you want to try a couple of other tracks, and then you're straight back to the basement in the next one over. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm kind of used to a certain speed or a certain intensity now, and I've got to work my way back through that. And it feels like retreading the experience. And like the menus do a great job of like unifying how it all looks and feels.
Yeah.
But then when you are in those separate season modes, you're like, the information on the screen looks different and feels different, and it feels like they could have unified some of that a little bit.
That's a really fair point. I felt that too. But I hadn't written it down, but yeah.
It just, like, it doesn't matter ultimately, but I just feel like, considering how much effort they've gone to in the menus, it would have just been a nice extra touch while they were, you know, zhuzhing it up a little bit and making it look pretty. Like, just
jump across a bit more.
Yeah, make it feel a bit more coherent across the whole thing.
You maybe wouldn't want it gated, but then also you maybe wouldn't want it to be Driver San Francisco, you know, jumping between crowds.
Exactly. And like,
something.
Just make it feel a bit more unified across all 3 modes, rather than feeling and looking quite different depending on how far through one of them you've got.
I found myself naturally doing that though, because I almost found some, if you will, gates with my ability. Where I was like, fuck, I cannot do this, so I need to go somewhere else for a while.
Yeah, but it also meant that, because I had that at one point, but I was quite a long way down the line for one of them, and then suddenly I was having to start over again. Which did make it feel like I was playing a whole new game, which does speak to what you were saying about a lot of content being there, but at the same time, did feel a little bit like a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, okay.
That said, it did also make me kind of realise, and this is kind of my third point, like, actually, I think 2048 might be quite short.
It is. Yeah,
like,
it definitely is.
It feels quite short.
Or at least it felt that way.
Compared to the other ones, right? And I think that, if anything, made the original review like that we put out for it like feel a bit different. And then you will also add in, like, sure, it looks great on PS4 and all that kind of stuff. It does look great, but I couldn't help but think that was a bit more expected. So like the technical achievement of putting it on a Vita and making it look and feel like it does on there somehow felt lessened by having it on a PS4. And like, it didn't feel like it was enough of a jump forward to necessarily feel like a remaster or like I was playing a new, fresh version of it. It still felt very similar. Not the same, obviously not. But like, it just somehow didn't feel like the technical achievement behind it was as impressive as putting it on a Vita or putting the older versions on the PSP and all that kind of stuff.
I wonder if because I've only played Pure and then 2048, that isn't so. But certainly, I've not played Wipeout HD or HD Fury. I wonder if I've seen the jump from the things that were in
Quite
Pure
possibly,
all the way straight up to PS4 and gone, wow, that's shithole that's happened.
Yeah, and but I think if that's the case, then not taking the opportunity to update the UI feels a bit, like even more of a missed opportunity. And I think that for me, that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of content there. It's definitely like the way that I will be playing Wipeout going forward, and has been the way that I've been playing Wipeout for however long now.
Yes.
How often do I play Wipeout? Yeah. I think this is where we get into the weeds of it, because if you did an F-Zero X and GX equivalent of the Wipeout Omega Collection and stuck it on a Switch or a Switch 2, holy shit, I would be all over that. And I think this was the realization that I had while I was playing it. Like, it looks pretty, it plays great, I was enjoying it. Is there a spark there that's making me go, oh yeah, like this is it, this is what I want to be playing? Not really. Like there was just something about it that wasn't grabbing me in a visceral way, you know.
Okay.
Like I think I wanted to like it more than I ended up liking it.
Yeah.
You know.
Fair enough. I'm going to invert all of your thoughts and say that it was very visceral for me. I didn't expect that. I thought you had my back on Wipeout. But like, as in, so yeah. How do I say I disagree?
You can say that you disagree.
Yeah, but I don't know. But everything you've made there is a good point, though. That is in maybe I've just not thought about it as well as that. But
it's not going to take anything away from what you thought playing it.
No, but I mean, I went back to playing it handheld, like remotely via my Logitech G Cloud via PS4, and oh god, it rocks your world. That is in sat there, just like even just like, but just having the headphones on and just sat there in the dark little corner of your room with your screen blaring random like sort of like shards of light coming at you, and like this thing. So the soundtrack isn't as strong as it has been previously, but it is a pulsating rhythm of that constant thud that drives, like it's almost like a pulsating life stream that drives you through this game. So, but then I'm clearly papering over the cracks of, like you said, like now that you've said it out loud, there is a discernible difference between jumping between the games and stuff, and like you do get pulled out of that a bit more than actually I was probably giving that credit for. And I was like, oh, I'm so immersed in this game, and it's just like I love. And you've said this before about Wipeout, actually, that is in, and it was in that part of the episode 21 where you were saying about, we were talking about our favourite arcade races and stuff, and you said like sort of it sinks your teeth into you, I think it gives you a bite and stuff. And look, Wipeout just kicks your fucking ass all over, all the time. It is not there to be your friend. It beats the living shit out of you and just chews you up. And just wants you to be better. It just wants you to be better at this game, like isn't it? But through tough love, and I just love it so much. I just love that. I love that about Outrun, and I love that about Wipeout, and I like it about this collection as well. There's is it Unity Square on 2048? It's I got it written down in front of me. So event 2.3, I think it is. It's fighters and rockets. I must have sat there for an hour just doing that single race over and over and over and over. What am I doing fucking wrong? Why can't I beat this fucking track? Gotta love it. I just love it so much. I just loved how much it had me. And it was just like, and I'd be there going, right, okay, three laps, 2 minutes 25, right, okay, right, I can improve on that. 2 minutes 20, right, okay, and then you rebound back up to 2 minutes 22, and you're like, "What's wrong with me? Come on, that was a bad corner. Like, stop, be better and stuff." And I'll do this next time and stuff. But everything changes, and the weapons, like, is in. So on the flip of what you're feeling about them, I don't like necessarily being shit on from above randomly, but it does kind of just lend itself an edge all the time. Like, as in, if you pick up a knife incorrectly and you're like, oh, I might cut myself here. Like, as in, like, you just never know what might happen to you.
I think for me, one of the points where I was starting to get wound up with them was you have the voice constantly going.
Oh yeah,
about like what's been picked
mines,
up.
rockets. So you're like, fuck off! Like,
and it took me frigging ages to realise that when it was the weapon that I had picked up, it was a different voice.
Yeah,
and so like they constantly would be like mines. Like, I don't have mines, and then you'd hear something explode. It's like, they've got mines though.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
and it was things like that where it was just like, okay, right, that's okay, and then it's just constant, and you're like, well, I can't hit any of these weapon pickups. This is annoying. Like, just shut up now. I get it. You're all heavily armed and I'm not. I've got it. Just fucking shut up.
See, it's really funny because I just think when it comes to that, we're different people. I love that chaotic bend where there's 6 people have just gone over weapons and it just absolutely spazzes out in terms of what it's saying to you. It's like loads of different things.
Yeah,
that it's like,
no, it's too much. It's too much.
And it is too much.
It's entirely too much.
And I'm sat there giggling maniacally, like sort of just like thinking, this is just the purest form of chaos. What Joker would have wanted the whole time. Like, but yeah, it just, like you say, it is just constant sort of chaos. And like, there's just neon spitting in your face constantly. And when you do like the zones and like, it kind of, in some versions, it converts into that weird polygonic neon sort of like phasing, and you're like, what world am I living in? Like, I feel like, I imagine this is what taking LSD and taking your Fiat 500
it was very Jeff Minter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it must just be, this is what it's like. So,
but I really enjoyed those bits because they're that much more stripped back.
Yeah,
and I think that was why I gravitated towards them a bit more rather than the chaos of the weapon based stuff.
Yeah,
and I just like the kind of psychedelia kind of flow state that you get into with it.
I think that I feel the frustration of how hard Wipeout is, like, as in, because of those different things of just how much I wrote this down. It gives you all that you can handle. Like, as in, like, it feels like it can give you all that you can handle, or more than you can handle. Like, as in terms of what it's throwing at you at all times.
I think for me, the problem with the weapons is that it is an obvious example of something that is out of my control. Like, if I fail a race, I want it to be because of something I've done, not because of something that somebody else has picked up.
Yeah.
And that's why I get wound up with Mario Kart and all.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to say about this. Just feels like big boy Mario Kart.
Yeah,
like, it's in
of course it does. Yeah.
So back to that Unity Square sort of example I was using before. So I'll be there, starting off at 225, and then, I would hone my skills in to get to 215. Like, as in, you have to be top 4 to qualify. And all of a sudden, everyone else just had a quick spike up to like 213. And I was like, last time we raced, you were on like 219 in 4th. And now I'm getting 215, you're on 213. I'm like, how hard are they trying to make this game for you? How much are they trying to kick in the fucking balls? Like, just to get you to get to the next sort of part of the game. And that's my only thing with Wipeout, is just that. So it just... And people that listen to this and love Wipeout, like, I know fine well they're going to turn around and just, get good and, like, all that kind of stuff, which I totally get. But, like, I spent a long period of time working on this one track and getting good, and it felt like I wasn't getting paid for it.
And they got better.
Yeah, and I was like, just that almost rubber banding of ability, and I was like, why is that happening? And I'm like, so what level of get good? How many boost pads do I need to hit? 100% of boost pads around this track and not hit any of the sides at this point in the game to pass forward? That feels like a lot. Like, it just, and I can see why it kind of, like, people say, yeah, it's difficult and you have to spend I listened to Classic Gaming Today podcast, and I remember the guy was talking about the original Wipeout recently, because he does a lot of retro gaming, talking back to the 90s, and he put this as like one of his best games he's played and stuff, but he said he must have sunk 40 hours into original Wipeout, and he was like, just to get to the end of it, and he was like, just because it just does this to you, like, the AI is so tough, and also, like, as in the way that it says it just will not let you suffer any mistakes. So it does boil over, but there's something that crawls down the back of my neck that makes me want to be better at this game. That is in and keep me coming back. Like an abusive sort of relationship with this game. It's really weird. So I don't mind that. But yeah, it just tipped over a few times. The last thing I want to kind of say was that I like that it feels like the exact right amount of things to juggle in a racing game almost, where you kind of, with the air brakes, for example, and you kind of get the dual weapons, like as in, so you get defensive weapons and offensive weapons. The ship integrity, you need to worry about that as well, like at all times. The boost pads, the mode you're actually playing, your enemies around you and things like that. There's a lot to consider when you're racing in Wipeout. But I like having a lot on my plate. Like, as in, I quite like sort of like, you know, the concept. It feels like you're puzzling whilst you're also racing as well, and that's what kind of kicks it into that upper echelon of a different type of racing game for me, and probably kicks it away from, say, for example, Outrun. Like, as in where you get that you completely see where people would sort of say, this is a Sega game over here, and this is like a Sony PlayStation game over here, and you can just see the difference and kind of go, right, what is it that I like about it? You can take different bits and stuff, but ultimately, what avenue would I follow if someone said, these are the two games I'm going to put in front of you? And I know where I would be going with it, out of the franchises in terms of, and this is kind of, I'm trying to circle around to a point here. Almost that's why I like Outrun original the most out of probably everything, is because it feels like he's doing that ass kicking, get better, train, but also has that sort of Sega feel to it as well. So it kind of keeps everything together in one. Yeah. You know, put some weapons in there. We're talking. You know, all the weapons are the rocks and the trees at the side of the road, and you're flipping over in your Ferrari. Yeah, so it feels like we're going to be different on the score on this one, which is fine. How do we want to do that, though? Should we just say our score anyway? I feel like this probably will need to have two scores on the sheet, though.
We'll say it at the same time, and then we'll hash it out.
Because mine's going to be... Mine's a bit crazy. Maybe, I don't know. Okay.
All right.
1, 2, 3,
7.
10. No, okay, I was joking. I'm joking. 9. Yeah, I think 9. I think it just sits exactly where all the rest of the Wipeout games ever have for me, which is 9 out of 10.
Quite high up.
Yeah, really high up. Just tough as balls. Like it's in.
All right. Let's look, because I'm looking at the spreadsheet now, and what else we've got floating around, like 7s and 8s and 9s and that neck of the woods, and you know, looking at what we've got where, I think, like, my fundamental issues are not necessarily with the game itself. A lot of them are my own hang-ups.
Like, but everything you said, I was like, I totally agree.
But like, so say about the sort of 3 season modes, let's call them that. It almost, to my mind, either needed to be something that you would choose before you get to a main menu. Mm-hmm. So you pick your game and then you go to the menu, or you go further than they've gone, and you completely integrate all 3 somehow. Whereas they've gone for some kind of middle ground that doesn't do it for me. You know, like the weapon thing, it's not doing it for me, but there are modes in there that do it for me. And like, objectively, I guess my point is, objectively, I know it's a great game. I do. Subjectively, I'm kind of lukewarm on it. So I think, basically, this is a really long-winded way of saying I'm okay putting it on the spreadsheet at a 9, with the big caveat that come the audit at the end of the year,
it's got no
we're having words about it.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. That's fine. I mean, but are you okay? I mean, I know you're okay with that, just to finish the podcast and go to bed. But like, it starts to stress me out a little bit that you give it a 7, which means you think it's worse than Outrun 2006.
I do.
Then
I do think it's worse than Outrun 2006, because you saying just then about like having them both in front of you and knowing which one you would go for. Yeah, I'm going Outrun 2006. Yeah. Like
the irony of using either a shotgun, the Wipeout, or the Outrun.
I had more fun with it.
Yeah,
it was fun. Like the Wipeout, particularly Omega Collection, feels like a cerebral, skill-based experience. Right? That is not what I go to my racing games for.
Yeah.
If I want that, I will go to a shoot 'em up or I will go to a fighting game. That is my personal pick your poison kind of poison. Right?
Yeah, it's a really good point because like the technicality of it is like I like when I look for a difficult game, I guess I probably look for the thing that I feel I'm probably best at, which is probably a driving game.
Probably a driving game, right? And other people would go to a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne or, any one of a million one things. It is horses for courses, ultimately. When it comes to, like, whether or not you're going to have a relaxing, chill kind of gaming experience or something really, really difficult, if you are going to invest the mental energy and probably physical exertion for trying to get good at a particular thing that is going to require a particular skill set, you're going to gravitate towards the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I do not enjoy Wipeout enough to invest the way that it wants me to meet it halfway. Outrun, I can turn it on, I can play it, I will have fun with it, I will have a couple of hang-ups about how it all is put together, but I'm going to enjoy it. Yeah. And I can put Magical Sound Shower on and everything will be right with the world. I can't do that with Wipeout.
It's so funny because we're usually completely the other way around. Well, not completely the other way around, but almost like imagery. I see me sat there like the PlayStation advert with the blood coming out my nose, like that dripping Andrew WK black hair in the front seat, sat beside you driving with like a pink sweater on, with like lovely sunglasses on. But
this is the thing. Like, I genuinely believe that you are gonna have your favorite genres for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
racing is not the one for me. Like, I dabble with racing games. I like them. I do, but they are not what I'm going to invest dozens upon dozens of hours getting good at in a hyper competitive focused manner.
Yeah,
fighting games is what I'm going to for that. So yeah, and I appreciate that difference. It is the variety that makes things good. So I'm just glad that we finally found what your one is.
It's just like, but it makes me feel so uneasy that we've kind of put it at a score that feels like a false score now. I'm like, but it doesn't, it doesn't matter to anyone. But just
this,
this
is the
inside,
thing. Like, objectively, I do know how good Wipeout the Omega Collection is. I do. I genuinely do. And I think part of the reason that I would have scored it comparatively quite low is that sort of frustration that I now know, having done these podcasts long enough and tried to meet so many things halfway, I just know that I'm never going to be able to.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to do the things that it wants me to do to sort of break through that skill ceiling and start to enjoy it. But I know I can do it with fighting games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I'm going.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That felt like a really nice definitive cherry on top. We might not that we might never ever go back to those franchises, but I can't see where else we would go. So that might be the last time, certainly reviewing a game, that we talk about those franchises. So it was a good little conversation to have. Hopefully, you can hear us on this. Hear us on this one. I'm trying to do a dramatic pause there. Hey. There it is. I can see it in the recording.
Lovely.
Right, on that bombshell before it stops recording. Bye, guys. Bye.